We're live! Hello everyone, nice to see you. Happy New Year to you too, although technically here it isn't New Year for quite a few hours yet. Presumably you are a few hours ahead, so congratulations to you. Nice to see everyone again. Hello, 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 hello. Nice to see the same people back again. Is the video and sound quality okay? The video to me looks absolutely terrible, but I can't get it to balance the light probably between my face and the background. So we'll put up with what we've got. I tried the manual controls on the camera, but it's a webcam and it just doesn't really do manual all that well. It's good enough for today, I think. Just about. So I've been printing with the Mk3. I've done quite a few prints. You probably, for those that have been almost waiting for this to arrive, you've probably seen my other video about the Power Panic already. If not, you'll probably want to watch that after this. I basically went through a bit about how Power Panic works, how I think it works, which I'm pretty sure is pretty close to how it actually works, and how you can test it and that sort of thing. And it's been quite well received so far, so hopefully you'll enjoy that. I have got another one recorded. I've started recording one that's about the skip step detection on the X and Y axis, so hopefully that'll be useful for everyone as well. My voice is strange, but audio is okay. I think maybe I just have a strange voice. It's because I'm wearing a jumper and I can't put it any lower. I prefer it down here, but it's what we got. Hello to everyone in Belgium. Right, so blimey, 18 people. Okay, so we're basically today just going to get a what we're going to do. We're going to get the new firmware, the 143B, stick it on the old printer. Sorry, I'm looking over here because that's where the computer is. We're going to get that new firmware on the printer. We're going to try the skip steps to make sure that that's still working the same, and the filament sensor, because I hear people have had problems with that. But I mean, I've not had any problems with that. We'll test that a couple of times, and we'll test the Power Panic. Power Panic's the big one for me because I've had the most problems with it so far. Everything okay? Just British? Okay, well, I'm afraid I can't really change that, so I'm going to be sticking with British for now. So yes, let's go get this firmware. I think I've already downloaded it. No, I haven't. So let's grab... Hopefully, there we go. Right, let's grab this firmware. So the one we're looking for, so I'm going to get this as well, the new drivers, which, I mean, it's not really a driver. I think it's just an update to Slick 3R slicer because some of the profiles were not very good. They were over extruding, which I did see. I mean, especially on the first few layers. On the front of a benchy, you can see right up the front, it seemed to be a bit weird, and I think that might have been from that. And then, of course, the 143B firmware, which we will get and do things with that. I got my 3D glasses, so let's go. That's right, it is in fact only possible to see 3D printing when wearing 3D glasses. Not a lot of people know that. Is Ron Hunt here? Ron Hunt, hello. Yeah, let's get this. Where are we going? That one, sorry. Oh, this is going terribly. Right, let's get this firmware updater going. I'm all over the shop. There we go. That's the screen I was after. It's out of focus, but we got it. So I'm already plugged in. Let's get the right file. We have to unzip this. 143B hex. Right, is it on? It's on. It's plugged in. Yes, update. Yeah, so when I first got the printer, like the very first day, I think it was this. Or might have been, no, that was my Mark II printer. So I did my Mark II clone. I tried to update. Yeah, my Mark II clone I tried to update with the firmware and forgot to turn the power supply on. So it like starts the communication with the Rambo board. Obviously this is the INZ, not the Rambo. But the firmware didn't go quite right, the firmware update. It sort of went a little bit weird. But I just reset the firmware, re-uploaded it again, and then we were good to go. How are we getting on? We're nearly there. Well, that... Can we... There we go. Let's see if we can hold the... Nope. Let's turn this down. Got a few minutes off to watch this. Wow. You have an awfully good boss. Well, we must have quite a few people here. I was surprised. I didn't expect to see many people, but it's nice to see you all. The Mark III's been pretty interesting so far, hasn't it? I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, my video about the power panic, I was a little bit nervous about putting up just because it sort of implied that it didn't work. Oh dear. Mark III in firmware and you get interest. Is that complete? Hello Dark Orbs, nice to see you. First mismatch verification error, content mismatch. Done, thank you. Interesting. Have we got, let's check. Okay, so despite the fact that we have loads of weird messages, we do appear to now be on 143B, and this camera just doesn't like focusing at all. No, no, yes, no, no. Okay, so we're on 143B. I don't know if it's going to work properly because obviously it seemed to have some errors in doing that. Although it didn't say error, it did just, all the messages sort of imply that it's gone right, but normally when I upload it just says, yep, okay, done. What speed do I normally print out with Steve? A little off topic, but I generally go somewhere in the region of, well, somewhere in the region of 80. I mean, obviously you have different speeds for different things, but about 80 is pretty normal speed. I found with Steve, if I actually go slow, I get more vibration through the frame and stuff, so for me it works better to not have that. I wonder if the new messages are more things of feedback for Prusa. I don't know, but I mean they did make a big deal about this firmware, so auto load filament, that's new. Okay, so it's not that automatic then. So you'd think when it says auto load it would do the preheat, but it would appear not, so you know, there's that. So let's get this up to temperature. While we're waiting for that, some of the prints I've done I want you to take a look at. This Triceratops skull, the support material for this was ridiculous because it prints in this orientation. I don't know how many other people have printed this, but excuse me, you actually get a huge amount of support material in under here. And you always see people with a S3D that has the brilliant support material, they just sort of pull it off. With this, it was pretty close. I mean, I had to dig a little bit to begin with because it was such a big rigid structure, but after that pulled away really quite nicely. Left me with quite a nice print, I think. It's not the best print in the world, but it's pretty good. It's pretty detailed. It's a nice model. So it's from a 3D scan. It's some sort of open source community that scan objects. It's pretty good. The LCD gets blurry. Let's go take a look, shall we? While it's doing that preheat. Close up. Yeah, that was printed, I'm pretty sure that was at 100% scale. It's not very big, the Triceratops skull. It was the default one from the SD card that came with the printer. So we've got unload and auto load. Yeah, I was pretty sure the... oh, shit. Yeah, autofocus is on. It just really doesn't want to autofocus. There you go, it did a bit then. Better? No, it's still a bit rubbish. Oh, okay, what's going on there? While we're doing this, shall we try the wizard? Because running wizard will delete current calibration results and start from the beginning. Oh, yes. Yes. Self-test to check most common calibration problems. So that's the first thing it's doing. Oh, no, okay, no, don't do that. No. Damn it. Okay, can't be bothered for that. Oh dear, now I've lost all my calibration stuff. Let's just check if the filament sensor is on or off, if we've still got that. So filament sensor is on, filament auto load is on, fans are on, and the mode is set to normal, crash detection on, temperature calibration on, Raspberry Pi port, presumably, is off. Live adjust Z, SD card. Yeah, this is still not focusing very well, is it? Maybe it's too close. My Mark III review, I'm probably going to do... Well, yeah, really, I want to wait for a stable firmware, to be honest. Because it seems... I mean, while I can do a review now, and it would be correct by current information, I wouldn't be surprised if they are releasing quite a few new firmwares within a short period of time. And if you, well, I found if you release a fairly negative review of something that then gets fixed, then everyone just sort of hates on you for uploading a negative review, which doesn't really help me at all. So, and to be honest, although it would be, I mean, the overall review wouldn't really be negative. There's a lot of good stuff to say about this printer. Oh, it's reset the live Z adjust as well. Okay, so we're going to have to do some... Oh, that's weird. Well, I stopped the wizard because it was waiting for everything to cool down rather than heat up. But let's go do it. So it wants everything cold before it starts rather than hot. let's just wait for that to do that. In the meantime, I'm going to open a window because I'm really hot in here. I shall be back in a moment. Yeah, I can tell they're super busy with it. I mean, it's so predictable. To be honest, I think it wasn't. I mean, we are getting beta firmwares at the moment, beta firmwares, however you like to say it. So yeah, I mean, even from that alone, you can imply that it wasn't really ready when they released the whole thing, which is a little bit weird, but I suppose when the hardware is ready to go, they might as well ship it. They've got nothing to lose. Well, they have a bit of reputation, but as long as they're not changing the hardware, then they may as well ship the hardware. Filament sensor doesn't work with all filaments. So what filaments does it not work with? I thought, I was under the impression that it works with pretty much every filament because it's more of it's a bit like the sensors on a mouse that work on glass. So even semi-see-through ones like clear PETGs and stuff like that would still work. But maybe if you're completely clear and colourless, then it has a bit of trouble. Or maybe it can see it, but it just can't detect the distance. Because I know at the moment, as you put this PLA in, you can watch the readout, and it knows how far you've moved the filament in. As in, it can see that, it calls it a y-axis distance. Even though it's obviously not the y-axis, it just calls it y distance, and it knows how far that filament has gone in past the sensor. And obviously, by design, you know how far it is from the sensor to the gears and all that sort of stuff. So, I hope everyone's enjoying this nice long wait while we wait for the temperatures to cool down. I shouldn't have preheated it. I should have just gone straight for the wizard, because now we've got to all sit here. Let's look at this print. This was a pretty cool print. So this is what they call Nefertiti. Again, had quite a lot of support. It's one of the scariest prints I've printed because the support material sort of looks like tears coming out the eyes. It looks like something from a horror movie when you're printing it and you've just got this stream of support material coming out the eyes. It's pretty weird. What else did I print? A couple of things from Maker's Muse. The tree and the cube. So the cube is pretty much perfect. I don't think I can fault that at all, really. There's some very slightly loose overhangs, but you have to try pretty hard to find them. And on the tree, it's failed in, well, it didn't fail, obviously you can see the whole thing, but I think there was some slightly excessive overhang on this third part, so the overhang here is sharper than normal. It's a lot sharper, steeper than 45 degrees, so you'd have to be a magician to get that to work properly. Wasn't the top crazy? Oh yes, the top of this. This flipping ridiculous. So if you look at so it is printed on this angle for anyone that doesn't know. And you can see the slant of this head. I mean, that's way beyond 45 degrees. And the inside, I mean, obviously you can't see the inside now, so the fact, well, if there is any drooping, you can't really see it. But the fact that it manages to do that sort of, it's basically an overhang, is pretty ridiculous. Quite impressive. I haven't tried it on Steve, so I might do that at some point. But I mean, look at that angle. That's got to be like 70 degrees from vertical. Well, at least 70, I'd say. Yeah, quite an impressive print. This has a bit of weird drooping on the ear here. The ears seem to be different either side. So this ear has no bottom bit and no top bit. It looks like they've been cut off. I don't know if the story of Nefertiti, but maybe that could be related. But this certainly has a bit of droopage on the underside. But other than that, it's pretty crazy. It's a nice print. It's sort of, I mean, in the lights it looks worse than it does when you in sort of normal daylight, because these lights are obviously pretty bright and they give you all this white reflective stuff. But in a sort of standard room light, it looks really quite nice. How are we doing for temperature? Still not there. Yes, so so on this, I think basically what it does is it does a super wide layer, and it sort of does it like this, like it's sort of looping back on itself. That's what it looked like to me. And so it builds this ridge. It does sort of, it curled up a bit because, I mean, it's printing something ridiculous, but it did sort of curl up a bit. That sort of built its own platform to build on. It was really strange to see it. I don't know if it would normally, presumably it always slices like that, but it was. Oh, here we go. Test fan, extruder fan. Okay. Yep, that's that one. Oh yeah, probably could have removed the metal plate, but we're done now. We're on to the wizard. Yeah, it is tempting actually to cut that. It's a really nice sound, like a drum, because there's zero infill. Oh, we're moving. I'd be amazed if it fails any of this, given the amount I've already printed with it. I'll tell you what, now that I've looked into how this sensorless XY homing, I say sensorless, obviously there is a method for sensing, it's just not a typical end stop. Now that I know more about it, it does make it all the more impressive. That's a bit jumpy. I don't know if you saw that, it was sort of stuttering down like this. I think these nuts, they need, well, that's dry as a bone. I should probably put some oil on it. How are we doing? It's just presumably heating the bed up. Ironically, now that it's waited for it to cool down, we've got to wait for it to heat up again. Yeah, probably should have taken the steel plate off. That would have helped. Reduce the thermal capacity. This is taking longer than before, I think. While we're waiting, I'm going to go nip and get a piece of paper because, oh no, don't worry, I've already got one. I know we need that for the XYZ calibration. PTFE spray. I already have a bunch of, well, I don't like using spray for lubricants because I don't want to get it in places where I don't want it. But I have a, what is it? I think it's a silicon based, is it? What is it? Oh, it's down there. Lithium, that's the one. I have this lithium grease, which I'll be using. In fact, I could probably do it now, but I won't because it's a little bit messy. As you can see, used a fair bit of that. But that's worked well for my printer so far. It's fairly high temperature, so it seems to go a little bit wetter. Oh, there we go. That's all worked. So it's happy with the bed heats up properly. Da 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 da. It still doesn't want to focus. I don't know what its problem is today. There you go. You can see, you can read the message. I think it will take approximately 12 minutes to run the calibration. Hello Creo 2000, welcome to the stream. You know what? I think it's quieter than before. It might just be my imagination, or me wanting it to be quieter than it was, but it does seem pretty quiet. Clean the nozzle, yeah, that's clear. Place a sheet of paper. My notes, my notes from the video I just recorded. Well, not just, I recorded it yesterday, I think. Here we go. Let's hope it doesn't dig into the bed like it did first time. Yes, there is a lot less crap on the desk. I'm almost completely empty desk. I have to try and keep this area, because this is not my normal desk, this is just for filming, but it's still quite difficult to keep it. This is, I'm pretty sure this is quieter than it was before. Oh yeah, so you think the vibration, I don't think so, because the whole printer is quite well isolated from, to be honest, it might just be down to where I position it on the table. If I position it in the middle, then obviously there's very little support. Well, the way I made this table, there's very little support on the underside, whereas obviously towards the edge, you've got the main beams, so you've got less vibration. That might be part of the reason why it's less noisy. We've not dug into the bed yet, so that's probably a good thing. The Z-axis doesn't appear to be moving, so I'm not sure how it's searching anything. That Z-axis is definitely not going anywhere. Or maybe it is very, very slowly. No, I think it is. Yes, it is. It looks like it's not. Yes, so I saw the thing about the increased Z current, because the video that I did for Power Panic, just before recording that, while I was writing what I was going to say for that, they put up the update, and I was like, oh damn it, all this stuff that I've just said might now be different because I've just updated it. So I went and got the firmware pretty much straight away, and launched the print and tried to do all the same things as before, just to check whether things were fixed or not. And, well, I say fortunately for me, obviously I want them fixed, but it did mean I didn't have to rewrite everything because everything was pretty much working exactly the same as when I first tested it during the build. Ooh. I think that's part 1 done. It does definitely change its, I know. I really wish I knew this whole sequence, the code. I really need to check that. What the code is for the sequence of, you know what I'm trying to say. Because it changes what it's doing. It does one thing and then it seems to change and do something else. But it looks like, I swear the last time it took this long, it didn't actually find the point. Oh no. Nope, seems happy. So, on to the next one. What's M45 V20? Increase. I don't know that one. That's weird. The Noctua fan just randomly started trying to spin. Weird. Ah, information about the mesh bed leveling. It's nerve-wracking doing this. It's such an unpleasant process. Because I know, now that I've had my bed marked, I know how much it could ruin it if I don't stop it in time. Oh, by the way, I did contact Prusa about this. So for anyone that watched my live build, at that point the firmware was even worse than a lot of people have seen. And during the homing, it smashed straight into the bed. I didn't notice it immediately. Well, it looked like it was touching the bed. I didn't realise how much it was forcing it. So I basically got, I don't know if you probably can't see that on the camera. You can actually see the trace below the printer, which is obviously not particularly safe. So I contacted Prusa to say, I got this damage on my bed. I'm pretty sure it's a result of my firmware, so I don't think there's really anything I could have done about it. I mean, maybe there could have been because I didn't notice it and maybe I should have done, but at the same time, it wasn't me that drove the head into the bed, it was the firmware. So I was like, what shall I do about this? It seems a little unsafe. And they just said, when there's a problem, let us know and we'll replace it. Because they said, does it still work? I was like, well, yes, it works. I've not completely damaged it, but at risk of damaging myself, I'd quite like to not have this problem. But they were like, no, when it stops working. Also, is this light on? No, there's supposed to be an LED. I noticed when I was watching Tom's, Tom Sanlandra's channel. I knew at that point, well, I knew already that there was supposed to be a light in there, but I'd never thought to actually check. So there's definitely an LED in there. I mean, it's not heating the bed, is it, at the moment, so it won't come on. But I've not seen it light. I wonder if it's just because I'm not looking at the right angle. But you watched all 3 streams afterwards. That's quite an achievement. It's a lot of content to watch, so thank you for that. Seems to be going quite well. We're on the 4th point. It's not taking too long. Turn off the bed heater after temperature calibration, after finishing the temperature calibration. After finishing the temperature, turn off the heat bed right away before waiting for the user to acknowledge completion. I'm not quite sure what you're getting at there. Presumably that was a quote from somewhere else. Oh yeah, that's fair enough. When you're working from home, you don't have anyone looking over your shoulder. I quite like when I was at university, when I was studying and revising. I mean, it sounds like procrastinating while I'm revising, but I always liked having something on in the background, just keep your brain sort of ticking over. Most of the time music rather than watching stuff, but because obviously I can't really look at 2 things at once, but I do know what you mean. Having something on in the background's pretty nice. So what's that going to say now? Improving bed calibration. Good, so that's the first step done. So that was so the thing about the bed temperature, turn off. I still don't get what. So is that something that the printer did and now doesn't do? Or is it an instruction of what to do to prevent a problem happening? If something major happened. Yeah, there were a couple of major things. Well, I say major. I mean, obviously I managed to build the whole thing pretty fine, but ooh, I thought that was some more damage. I mean, it's not, it's just something yellow. You know, it's a piece of orange plastic. I do still get so blooming nervous. It's so close. Oh, the bed light is off because of the fix. Okay. It is definitely quieter than... I'm going to nip... Well, this is obviously just playing through its cycle. I'm going to go get my audio meter thing that I had before. I mean, it's not perfect, but it'll do. It'll give us a measurement reference to what I had last time. Here we go. The very best money can buy in audio measuring equipment. Not. Oh, okay. Sorry, I did get confused a bit about what you were talking about. Yeah, okay, that's the fix for the bell LED. Got it. Got it. Sorry if you can hear me shuffling around. I don't have a chair that's high enough for this desk because it's more of a workbench sort of desk. it's quite high. And so if if you saw my live build, you know how low I was sitting. So now I've grabbed some toolboxes from my Bosch power tools and I'm sitting on those boxes. It's not particularly comfortable. So this is slow mode. Let's see if that's going to give us any sort of helpful reading. Okay, looks like the sound level is going to be about the same length, 55/56. I mean, obviously it's going to depend on what I'm printing at the time. This is consistent motion. I'm definitely getting some wearing on here though. There's some noticeable marks where the gears are grinding, the bearings are grinding on the steel. You probably can't see them with the terrible quality camera that I have, but I mean, there's some distinct lines all the way across that are clearly, I mean, I can feel them with my nail. So those bearings are just grinding in. But I mean, it's just, I've not done anything completely. Yeah, a bar stool is what I'm going to get. A nice wooden one. They have I think it is the IKEA one that I was looking at actually. It has the like the 4 tool legs and then a little spinny top, so you can do a bit of height adjust. Just what I need for this desk. Because sitting on toolbox is not the most comfortable thing in the world. And I'll probably break them before too long. I swear this is taking longer than 12 minutes. We're barely halfway through yet. The only thing about IKEA stuff is if I remember, the shipping's quite expensive. So I don't live particularly near to an IKEA. It's about, I mean, by standards of other countries, it's actually probably pretty close. It's about an hour's drive away. But I don't really want to drive an hour to buy a stool and then drive an hour back. But I'll add it to the list of things I want to get from IKEA. While we're on the topic of IKEA, let's just ignore that topic and look up here for a second. As a result of doing this homing process, this has happened. So obviously, we're right up now. So obviously the spool filament normally feeds over the top, and because of that going all the way up to the Z, the plastic was then sort of going here and it pulled it off the reel and now it's gone down. If this continues, that's just going to wrap around there and have some pretty serious problems probably. In fact, how would it do? Yeah, it would start catching on here like that. So that's less than ideal. Fortunately, obviously I'm watching it so I can correct it. But this spool thing, not a massive fan. One of the mods, I say mod, I mean it's going to be pretty simple, that I made. In fact, can you see? No, it's bad on there. So I've probably mentioned it before, you might have already heard me say, this should have a feed tube from the extruder to the spool, because of here we have varying distance. If you have a feed tube, then it's constant distance, so you don't have to worry about getting wound up, knotted and all that sort of rubbish. So I'll probably create a mount for a PTFE tube on the back of the frame here, and then that will feed the tube over to the front, and then that feed tube will go off down the back to I say sort of external, there we go, onto 0.3, an external spool mount, because I don't like having it on top of the frame. I don't know how much it does for damping. It probably does dampen actually, because it's fairly loose, so it'll probably rock forward and backwards. Wow, Jesus, that was ridiculously quick. How come it took like 20 minutes to do the second point, and then the third one? Oh yeah, Capricorn tube, of course, we've got the better tube. Although, to be honest, I mean, I could use Capricorn tube, but because it's not Bowden, it doesn't actually make a difference. Because it doesn't matter how close that internal diameter is, it's the length that's important. Oh, it's going up. It's going a long way up. A very long way up. Oh, and it's not stuck, it's just stopped there and it's not at the top. Please place steel sheet on heat bed. Got it. Let's do it. I did sort of laugh on Tom Sandlander's stream as well. You put this sheet down, and if you get too close without moving your fingers to the side, it will just snap your fingers under the bed. I mean, it's cool for me to laugh, but it's exactly the same as what I did. See? It's ridiculous. If you have your fingers, if you're putting it on like this, and you have your fingers under there, that's just going to take your fingers off. Blimey. Okay, that's on. What are we saying now? Place steel bed on the thingy. Measuring reference height of calibration point 1 of 9. Yeah, true, the Capricorn is a bit slipperier, but I mean, yeah, will it make a difference? Maybe. Will it be a big enough difference for me to worry about it? Probably not, because I already have PTFE tube, so I probably can't be bothered to buy more. Do 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 do. Yeah, I mean, if you put your fingers on that finger point, when you put that flipping steel sheet on, you are going to lose your fingertips. Oh yes, perpendicular. Assembled like a boss. Is filament loaded? Yes, of course it is. You see, why do I have to answer this question? It's loaded. There's a sensor. Detect it. Is it PLA? Yes! I mean, obviously it can't detect that. That's fair enough. I will calibrate distance between the tip of the nozzle and the heat bed surface. I will start to print line and you will gradually lower the nozzle by rotating the knob until you reach optimal height. Check the pictures in our handbook in chapter calibration. Now it's going to heat up. I did notice that everyone else's calibration seemed to be nearer 1mm, whereas my one was nearer 0.6, but I think that's obviously just where you assemble the PINDA probe slightly differently. And I did follow the instructions. I did the thing with the nozzle and the bed and the zip tie and the push it down on it and that sort of stuff, but yeah, it doesn't really matter as long as my prints stick consistently, then I don't really care. Mine's about 0.7 also. Yeah, I wonder if they changed the instruction after we built ours, because I know you were one of the first to build them, and I don't think I was long after. I wonder if the days after that they changed the instructions at all. Don't know. Probably not. We just probably built it slightly differently. Mark 3 upgrade kit. Yeah, so if you've looked at any of the Mark II clone stuff that I've been doing, I've been putting together a bill of materials for that, and considering, I mean, while the point of my machine was to not buy anything from Prusa, if you wanted to make a Prusa clone, I wouldn't obviously force you to do it the same way I did, but instead do it a more optimal way. And so buying a upgrade kit from Prusa allows you to buy a selection of the parts, some of the more complex parts, at a more reasonable cost. The filament sensor cannot detect the presence of filament, it only detects movement of filament. It uses that movement to determine if filament is inserted or stuck. Okay, so it can't detect if it's there, if it's static, but if it knows the temperature, then it knows if it can move filament. So if it wanted to detect it, it could just do a quick movement so that it could see if anything was moving. Oh, I can't really see what I'm doing. I might just set it to what I know works. Oh, down, 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 down. Where are we at? Can't see. What are we at? 0.61. Yeah, I think that's happy for me. Maybe go a little bit further. No, I think that's a bit too far. Let's go somewhere there. Add to the GitHub edges as feature request. Oh, maybe I'll do that. Although I should really have a notepad with me when I'm doing these. Yeah, the first layer height calibration is really useful. If I do a Mk3 Steve, then I'll try and add that into the firmware of that, because it is useful to have. Yeah, I suppose that's a fair enough argument. If it doesn't... Oh, golly, that doesn't look quite right. No, I suppose that's alright, actually. It looks like it's lifted up slightly on one side, but that's probably... Whoopsie-daisy. Probably go a little bit lower, actually, but I think for now we're not going to worry too much about that. Just need to close this window because it's blowing a gale. Okay, so we're getting there. Do you want to repeat the last step to readjust the nozzle? Oh, that's good as well, asking if you want to do it again. No. Yeah, because I remember, I'm pretty sure when I did it first time, I was like, oh my god, it's going, I don't know. Oh yeah, probably needed it a bit lower, and then you have to go do it again separately. All is done. All is done. Happy days. Oh yeah, well, I don't have a pen either. So, we've got that sorted. So we should be happily calibrated now. Why have I put this on this side of the screen? It makes it really difficult. Also, this indexer knob doesn't do the things every time. Okay, it is now that I'm talking about it. But before, it didn't. You can move it and it doesn't go anywhere sometimes. So what do we need to check? I think we need to start a print. Do I want to slice a new print? Not particularly. I mean, obviously, if we're going to check the... So I'm not going to worry about checking the print stuff for now. Let's print directly from the SD card and we'll reprint something we've already done. Not because we want the print, just because that allows us to do the testing of the features. Extruder info, belt status. Blimey, there's a lot more here than there was when I first checked. I noticed with the new firmware the filament sensor had a lot less false positives. Protopasta filament was driving it nuts on the original firmware. Is that Protopasta a partly clear, translucent? 10.45, 10.43. Measured skew 0.01 degrees. Wow, that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. I mean, I think it's a lot more difficult to build it squiff than it is. Yes, let's check the belt status. Support. Let's try and check all of these. So let's go through them. Extruder info. Nozzle fan 4080 RPM. Print fan currently 0. Okay, so if I stop this, does it... Yeah, so that's a live value. Not translucent, it was matte fibre, so it has the looks of fibres in it. Okay. Yeah, so it probably just didn't know quite what it was looking at. What else we got in here? Belt status. X251Y285. So is that the total travel distance? Because obviously, I mean, is this? I don't know what that value is actually representing. This can't be the movement, can it? Because 285 would mean it is measuring the tightness. So how does it do that? How is it measuring the tight? Oh! Yeah, so... 240 plus or minus 40. I wonder, do you know what that 240 unit is? What the unit of 240 is? Because it's not millimeters, is it Newton meters and torque? It's not going to be that, that's huge. It'd be interesting to know what the units are, because if you know about stall guard, TMC force detection, so yeah, so it's a part of stall guard and it's related to the load angle. Interesting, it's quite cool that. Belt units. It's a relation of the load angle, I'm pretty sure. Look, the belt. That's the control board is an INEA, not an INZ. And that looks like a 0.4 alpha revision, but there you go. Oh, by the way, if you've seen, I don't know how many of the early builds you've seen, but a lot of them seem to have this extra add-on board. And I found something the other day. Yes, so there's a little add-on board for the screen, because I think Joseph said, I found a post on the forum and it was relating to the voltage of the stepper drivers somehow going to the SD card. I don't know how it would work. I'm not a genius with electronics, but temperatures, presumably that's going to be very unexciting. Oh, that's quite cool actually. So yeah, obviously it knows if there's something wrong, if the PINDA temperature or something is significantly lower than the ambient or something. So yeah, a high ambient is that sensor on by the connectors. So the ambient, if you have a loose power connector, the ambient temperature will increase because it will increase the temperature around the connectors. I mean, it's not a very useful temperature for doing a lot else, presumably. Yeah, so I think that extra protection is because of that voltage that they had problem with. Calibration. No, sorry, it's support, that's the one. What else we got in here? Temperatures, voltages. This is probably not going to be that exciting. 24.1 volts. Wow, how thrilling. Support. And then the debug. RAM, SP min, heat start, and presumably that's error codes that's useful for them. The newer firmware can detect if you have the fans swapped too, which I found really amusing. Well, I actually built it. I mean, it's not that you put them the wrong way around. It's detecting that you put the connectors the right way around on the control board, which I did because I was distracted by the live stream, which for me is challenging. So I ended up putting them the wrong way around, and then when I was doing the heat up, it ended up jamming. I don't know if I have the evidence. Nope. So yeah, on the Mark II they did have a thing. It says, is this the fan that's spinning? And is this the fan that's spinning? But on the Mark III they took it away. So it's additional things for languages. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure so on the Mark II, the way they did it was by visual confirmation, whereas now, because they know the RPMs are different, they spin them up to max RPM, or with 12 volts, and they detect the RPM. If it's the right RPM, then it's the right fan. Fail stats. Power failures 8, crash detection 18, filament fails 0. That's interesting. Didn't I do a filament failure during one of my torture streams? Right, I think we're pretty happy with that. Unless anyone knows anything else, we're going to get on with a preheat and a print. Let's stop preheating. If anyone has any suggestions for anything we want to check before starting a print, let me know now before we get that print underway so I can do it before everything gets too hot. Blimey, 33 people watching. Welcome to everyone who's not been around here before. Good to see you. I can't wait to see this, for everyone to see this video I did about the stall guard. Oh, so cool. Not the video, the technology. It's epic. When you learn, because I mean, Prusa obviously don't need to, for a lot of their customers, they don't need to explain how everything works. They just need to say, oh, it can detect skipped steps, and everyone's like, wow, that's super useful, which it is. But what I'm really interested in is, how does it detect the skip steps? What is it doing in order to find that? Oh, installing new firmware, they wiped the filament missing value because it was bugged. Oh, I see, yeah. So if it was reading your filament thing incorrectly, it would just keep going up. Yeah, 255 is probably the max value then, isn't it? So we're probably pretty warm. No one has suggested anything else, so let's go for a print. Let's not do anything ridiculously long because we don't want to be here for hours and hours. 3D benchy. 2 hours. I don't really want to wait 2 hours. I think I have a better benchy. Oh, in fact, let's do Buddy. That was a 150 micron, 1 hour. That sounds about good. Let's get on with this. So this is what we're printing. Spoiler alert. It's going to be one of those. I think this is Joseph Prusa's dog, as far as I know. It's quite a nice print. Whoop, off he goes. It's quite dense-ish. It doesn't really test the limitations as well as a benchy does. It doesn't have the same sort of overhangs and everything. But a nice print nonetheless. It'll do for what we want to do. Because pretty much all we're going to do is force it to fail. There's going to be a repetition of that stream I did where I just cut it, push it, cut it, push it, cut it. I need some cutty things. I haven't got any cutty things for cutting the filament. I now have cutty things for cutting the filament. Right, we're off. He fits in there, presumably. Stall detection works by increasing... Oh, but how does it increase? How does it detect the increase in the motor load? I know all the answers to these questions, by the way, because I already done lots of research on it. If you look up load angle, this is much... Oh, I'm doing beer opener. I didn't realise I was doing beer opener. Okay. Okay, well, let's have a beer opener then. Who cares? This doesn't bother me. Tried holding it once, I almost lost a finger to the Ponto cuts. Yeah, I'm not sure how you're supposed to jam filament. To be honest, I've been printing stuff at home now for several years, and I did at work for a while, and I've never managed to jam... Oh no, that's not true. No, I have. How did I do it? Ah, so... Oh, dear. Yeah, I suppose I could... I mean, I think the best way for me to jam it, although I really don't want to, is to stop this fan. If you stop this fan, the heat will creep up, the filament will expand, and it will get stuck. So the reason it doesn't work in stealth mode is because of another one of the trinamic features. So I'm gonna, oh, I don't want to spoil the video. I'm not going to spoil the video. If you want to know why it's not, why skip step detection is not enabled in stealth mode, you'll have to watch that video of mine when it comes out, because that will explain why. In fact, it might not. But it might, which might be enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you want to stop the... The problem is, if you try and just grab the filament and stop it moving, it's more likely to crush this before anything else. Well, let's just start with something simple. Let's just cut the filament. Whoa, shouldn't have done that. That's lost. Oh, dear. Going very slowly. Yeah, too late for holding the spool. Rip spool. I would jam the nozzle on the bed, apart from that's just probably going to kill my bed more than the nozzle or the print, so I don't particularly want to do that either. Oh, hold the spool. I could try that. Yeah, that. Please press the knob to unload the filament. Why do I need to do this? Unloading filament. No, it's not. Hello? Wow. It doesn't... This is a pain in the arse. Okay, well that didn't come out particularly well. That did not work well at all. The unloading was just terrible. I mean, it can read the distance that the filament's travelling, and it knows the distance that it needs to travel. So surely it knows how long it needs to rotate those gears in order to get it to come out. Change filament? Yes. And then it still does more! Even after I click yes, it still jams more plastic out. Okay, so on the upside, I guess it works, but that distance is definitely not right. I mean, even if it had to be something we needed to calibrate, which would be ridiculous because everyone's value is going to be the same, but I'd rather that than that malarkey where you have to press the button to say yes, press it again to continue, press it again to do this, press it to do this, press it to do this, press, 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 press. I mean, if you're going to have all the sensors, it needs to be smart. Yeah, so I'm going to do that again. And we're going to watch very closely at what happens. Okay, I think it's going to start. Also, why does it do a second layer on the skirt? That's definitely looks... It can't be quicker, it's the same G-code. Alright, let's cut those again. So last time it definitely did some movement. Let's see if we can... I mean, I don't think you're going to be able to see a whole lot more anyway. but I shall tell you what's going on. So the filament's obviously going in now. In a second it'll trigger. There you go, so that's triggered, and obviously the gears at the moment are stationary. And now, for some reason, I have to press the knob, just because reasons. And now it's still going, but it's going really, really slowly. It is actually still going. I thought it had stopped before, but it is. Yeah, so now, because it does that, you get this slightly fatter blob on the end, but it's... Repeat unloading the filament. No. Insert filament and press the knob. Okay, so I didn't need to press the knob, that's good. But why did you tell me to press the knob and then it's not pressing the knob? I didn't hold the spool at all, no, not this time. Draft protection. I'm not sure it's going to protect much draft from like 1/2 mil high, but there you go. Yeah. And maybe it does help just enough for that bottom layer to stick a little better. Oh, second layer temp, yeah, that's... Default instructor since 1.35. It can't be, surely. I'm pretty sure I've not seen a... Is it done? Yes. I'm pretty sure I didn't see multiple skirts. Oh golly. Yeah, so there's still no way for it to get rid of this, which is a little bit unfortunate. I guess what it should have is some sort of... You know, I think it's one of the Zortraks, they have like a bucket on each end, so they can wipe the nozzles. If it had somewhere on the end here where it could go in, wipe the nozzle and come back out before it resumed, that would be pretty cool. Oh, it says so. Okay, well obviously that's me just being blind because I've never noticed that. This is a ridiculously quick print. The speed it does these layers is ridiculous. Obviously, remember this is the original G-code that came with the printer, so this is not going to change any of the over extrusion or anything, so we can probably still expect a little bit of over extrusion. Let's do it again. In fact, shall we try? So you probably can't see what I'm doing at the moment, and I apologise for that, but I was basically just holding this. Interestingly, it seems to have I think it pulled the Z-axis up rather than doing anything else, which is not particularly what I wanted to achieve there. Yeah, I was trying to do any jam detection, but that sounds horrible. Oh, the clicking or the current printing noise. This is all a bit of a mess. So let's jam the axis. Oh dear, that's not good. Yeah, so that clicking noise sounded like it was skipping to me, but I mean it didn't want to detect it, so Don't know what was happening there. And the problem with, there you go, this, ooh, well, interesting. Oh, that first time, by the way, where I put the pliers in and it didn't work properly was because when it did this thing, but I couldn't remove the pliers, so it then homed against the pliers. And that's why it ended up completely out of line. But I'm fairly confident that this feature actually works fairly well. It does leave a little bit of a mess on the print, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not too bad. It doesn't home Z, but how's it supposed to home Z? If it was to come across there and home Z, then you probably screw your print entirely. If it's larger, you're going to bang it on something. The belt on the idler side is turning. Oh yeah, on this side, yeah. Well, I don't know what they've moved, but the orientation of something has changed on this design, because if you look at the STLs of this file, you can see how they've done this weird adjustment to offset the pulley slightly, the idler pulley. But even like that, it's not done quite enough, because it's still, so they moved it towards this side. It's moved this way compared to normal, but it's still touching on that side, so it needs to move even further. And the reason it's doing this turning is just because of that. I mean, I don't think that's really going to affect the print, but obviously we'll wear the belt down a bit quicker than you'd want it to. I have no idea how I'm going to jam this Bondtech extruder. The only way I can think to do it would be to get rid of this fan, turn this fan off, or just stop it rotating, and that would do the heat creep and the whole jamming that way. Oh, so instead of homing Z, you mean just level the Z axis? Yeah, it could do that. Yeah, but then the problem is if it goes up to do to make sure it's parallel at the top, it has to home again after that, because otherwise you don't know which one's correct. When it does that thing at the top, it deliberately skips steps. Because it's skipping a step, it no longer has the positional information of that axis. So you can't do the bit at the top without doing the homing at the bottom as well. Oh, it changed to stealth mode. Let's try that. Where did they put that now? Probably up here somewhere. Tune. Speed, bed, fan, flow, filament sensor, mode. Crash detection. Warning. Crash detection disabled in stealth mode. That's useful, because if you didn't already know, then the way this Spawn We Own video about stool guard. So the reason for this mode, I believe, is the Trinamic drivers have a mode that is designed for the medical industry, that's to prevent overheating or to prevent any high temperatures in stepper motors. Now, the reason you have high step... Is it melting the print? No, the print's fine, I think. It's all a little bit weirdly offset, but I think that was because of this thing I did. So yeah, in the medical industry, they don't want high temperature stepper motors. So to reduce the temperature of the stepper motors while obtaining a similar or the same torque, they have to reduce the current. And obviously, with stepper motors, you normally typically have a consistent, steady current in order to keep the holding torque, for example. Oh, it pauses during the state. Yes, so yeah, when it changed to stealth mode, it didn't do that. And there's definitely something not quite right with my... I'm getting loads of weird under extrusion. We'll take a look at that at the end. That might have been of the because of the fuckery I did when I pulled this. So yeah, the way this feature works is it reduces current based on the load angle. So the load angle is basically a measure of back EMF, which is a measure of how much force has to be applied by the motor And by reading that value constantly, they can adjust the current to the printers. And so when it's a low load angle, in fact, well, when it's a all these words, tongue-tied. When it's a low load angle, you can reduce the current, which reduces the heat. When you're trying to do fast or high acceleration movements, then you increase, it dynamically does it automatically, it increases that, increases the current back to a higher level to maintain the maximum force that it can do. So obviously no change there. Yeah, it doesn't raise the Z, so at the moment it's just sitting there blobbing on the print, which is obviously not the great, not ideal. No, it definitely doesn't go up when it changes to stealth mode. Well, unless you can see better from that angle, but from this angle it didn't appear to change. I think the reason it stops is purely because the firmware can't do more than one thing at a time. I think. I don't know if that's entirely true, but as far as I'm aware, it's limited. It's a single core, so it can do one thing, and when it's done that one thing, it can do another thing. So what mode are we in now? We're in stealth mode now. So yeah, it can't do step detection in stealth mode because of that medical application where it's supposed to adjust the current. It can't measure the maximum load angle because it's already using the load angle to do something else. That's basically why it can't do that. Where's it gone? Too far. Tune. Crash detection not available yet. Crash detection on. At least it keeps the crash detection set to on when you go back to stealth mode, normal mode rather. What if we just do a change filament? Can you check the fail stats? I don't. Oh, you can. 8 power failures, 22 crash detections. 23 crash detections. I mean, in my mind, that feature works basically flawlessly. Okay, well, it doesn't want to work on the y-axis today. It's just going to push me out of the way. Oh, there we go. Could I jam it by overriding the temperature to 0? Oh yeah, the filament. Yeah, so filament fails. I wonder if, that's weird. So it didn't detect, so it detected it obviously, it did the detection, but it didn't update this to say that that happened. Is anyone making a list of all these things that we're finding? Because someone's going to want to know about them. Maybe I'll just send the video to Joseph Prusa and he can he can have one of his programmers watch it. What else have we not? I mean, we've not done power failure, but I mean, my record of power failure is not great. Shall we do it? Shall we do the power failure thing? Because I'm sure that's going to still not work. Just because my confidence levels in power detection failure is not high at the moment. Nobody has a pen. Okay, the only solution we have to this is everyone's going to have to print messages based on the things we find. Seeing as nobody has a pen, we're just going to have to print words and send them by post to Prusa Research. That's the only way. It's the only possible way. Right. So I'm going to pull the power. It didn't go up in Z. No raise in Z. Let's see what's going to happen. Oh dear. 3 brownouts during my first print and it worked all 3 times. I've never had it work. I've never had it work properly. I don't know if because... How many of you are in the UK? I wonder if it's a different way that the UK power supply works. Because it's a higher voltage or different frequency, I don't know. So this part always works. It knows that there's a power failure, it knows that to recover, but it always then goes down and then just smashes into the print. Watch this. Oh my god. It freaking worked! It worked! It did it! That's the first time! Oh my days! It actually worked. I could not be happy about that. Now I can just unplug it all the time. To celebrate, let's just cut the filament. Oh, you can't see that because it's too low. Yeah, so it's interesting that it didn't go up. I wonder... Ooh. Please press the knob to unload the filament. For a moment there, I forgot that I pressed the thing. So why is it doing this so slowly? Presumably it's to stop it getting all bunged up inside. Yeah, so it does a slow bit, a fast bit, and so it's still stuck. I don't know what it's getting stuck on. Yeah, it gets this weird thing on the end, this weird blob. It makes it really difficult to pull out. Oh, hang on. Press no for that. Insert filament. I like that. That is good. So, which is the one I just pulled out? This one. Please focus. Please. Oh, come on, please. I've been really good today. Oh, there we go. I mean, there's a slight bulge before that sharpness. I think that's why it's difficult to pull out, that little blob at the edge. It's a little ridge that's difficult to pull past. Moving the z-axis completely dependent on how much power is left. Yeah, totally. A brownout may leave enough power, for instance, but a hard pull may not. Yeah, totally agree. I mean, that's in my video about power panic. I did say in that the operations that it tries to do are basically in order of priority. So there's 2 different things that happen when the power supply has no input. There's a hard switch on the control board which disables the heated bed and the hot end. So that basically cuts all the power output to those. And then at the same time as that happening, the firmware saves all the current position to the EEPROM and then raises the Z and then tries to move X just to get the hot end out the way of everything. But in my mind, if you can't be sure that you're going to get that working properly, as in if you're going to end up with a big scar on your print, which is a good example. This is a fairly good example. You can see that big scar on the print from where I did a Z recovery. If you can't get that to work every time, then obviously you don't want that rather than do want that. I have an E3 VV6 head on a different printer and get a blob on the end of the filament when pulling it out. Because of these, it needs to make sure the nozzle is still primed. Otherwise you have a gap in the print when it restarts. From my experience, the best way to pull filament out is just to do it as fast as possible. Honestly, what I normally do to get filament out, I push it in so it's extruding out the bottom of the hot end, and then as I'm doing that, I just pull it out. And you get like a little bit of extra waste on the end, so it seems to clear the nozzle reasonably well. So yes, it does. I'm pretty certain it's safe to EEPROM, but so the important thing about EEPROM is it has a limited number of write cycles. But if you're only saving once per power outage, and your EEPROM can do maybe 100,000 writes, that's a hell of a lot of power outages before you have an actual problem. So normally the questions about EEPROM, when people say, is it writing to EEPROM, and he has to say yes, is because they're thinking it's constantly writing to EEPROM, so it thinks every line on the every line in your G code, which obviously will be thousands upon thousands of lines, it's not writing every one, so that when it gets to a power outage, it's already there. It's triggered when the power goes out. It writes that specific line that it's currently working on, and then goes elsewhere. So that EEPROM is only used once per power outage, which is absolutely fine. So to say to look out for it before it starts, but it can't pause or lose again. Ooh. It's just lost some Z height, everyone. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's weird. Mid-print. I don't know if, well, you probably didn't manage to hear it, but I could hear it hitting the top of the print, which is strange, and I did not expect that. How can we, I mean, the number of times I can do this in a print and it still look perfect is frankly quite ridiculous. In a good way. You can just constantly do this again and again and again and again. The really important thing to know about this, which I will tell you in the video that's coming, but I'll tell you now anyway, because I know that you'll want to watch the video regardless. When you're trying to do the skip step detection, the force you apply to do that skip step has to resist the intended motion of the stepper motor. So if the carriage is trying to move one way, your force has to be the other way in order for it to detect a skip step. If you're pushing this way and the motor's moving this way, then you will probably manage to skip a step, but it won't be able to detect it because it's not working in the way that StoolGuard intends. So when you see other people testing it, and that's why they're getting skip step and they moan because it doesn't work, in reality, within natural motion, there's never going to be an external force. All the forces are going to be internal within the motion system that's already there. And the only way it's going to manage to do that is if the mass of this object is going to resist the motion that it's trying to already be in. Hopefully that makes enough sense. So yeah, force has to be opposing to the intended direction of motion. So only writing the EEPROM on software updates and on power failures, and then only the current position or line. So yeah, if you don't test it 100,000 times, you should be good. 100,000 times is a hell of a lot. So I think I said in that video I did how many times a day you can do it. I think it's something like 273 power losses a day for an entire year. I mean, if you've got enough time to do 273 power losses every day, 24/7 for an entire year, then yeah, I think you're being a little bit ridiculous. Are you going to have to open a beer to test the print? Well, I don't really drink beer, unfortunately. I know, unsubscribe now, it's disgraceful, but it's not that I don't drink alcohol, I just don't really like beer. Yeah. I don't think I have anything with a bottle opener top. Thank you, 3D Gusner. No problems. Thank you for joining me again and for having lots of questions. That's always useful. and I shall see you in the new year. Number 1 feature request, invert scroll directions, always goes backwards first. Yeah, everyone wish 3D Augustiner a Happy New Year. It does these top layers a bit slow, doesn't it? Let me go see. I'm going to go see if I have anything with a bottle open top that I can use it with, but I don't think I do. But I will check just to see. What did I miss while I was gone? Everyone saying Happy New Year. I really want to see the powder coat bed as well, but unfortunately I wasn't allowed to have one because they didn't have them in time. But obviously Tom Sanandra got one because he was obviously sponsored to do it, which is a bit of a bummer because I'd quite like to have had one. I think he got one of the early experimental beta ones, but I'm going to have to buy one when they're available. Goodbye 3D Gustner again if you haven't already gone. Tom gets it because he's Tom. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining. It's fair enough. When you have a lot of subscribers, they're obviously a lot more valuable to a commercial enterprise than someone with 1,000. A few hundred views is not going to get you any sales, whereas tens of thousands is. So I can't moan, can't complain. You just got to keep working until you get to the same point. But do you want the smoother one or the rough one? That's a good question. To be honest, I don't really know. I don't dislike the rough one. I can't help but think the rough one's just going to be better because it has, because of the roughness of the surface. I just feel like for some reason it's going to grip better. It's just that surface area is greater because of the roughness. I mean, if you really want a shiny finish, then sure, the smoother one's going to be better. It's doing some pretty nasty noise on this at the moment. So yeah, to be honest, I'd rather have the rough one. I think smooth is nice and all that. I did have print on glass for a while, and that wasn't too bad. But PEI, definitely the surface to go for in my opinion, and I think I'd rather go rough than smooth. Interestingly, they've obviously printed all their parts on that rough surface, so they probably have a couple of hundred of those rough surfaces on their farm, and these were printed in PETG. And now, a lot of the time you see people getting PETG prints on PEI, and it literally sticks so well that it bonds literally to the surface, to the point where you try and pry it off and the whole PEI bed comes with it. Have I cleaned your PEI sheet with anything more than alcohol? Have I cleaned my PEI sheet? I think I cleaned it once in the first stream, but I haven't cleaned it since then, and I've printed all of this stuff that you can't see because it's on the other screen. Wow, that works really well. I think that other camera's just gone to sleep. Hello? That works. That works. Okay, well that camera's just decided to stop working. So, yeah, when I printed stuff like this, and it has a fairly small surface area compared to, I mean, this is like, how many hours? Ron, can you remember how many hours this takes to print? I think it was 8 hours or something ridiculous. I think this was 5. I think this was 8, although it says 5. But I've only wiped my bed once, I think, since I've had it. The thing is, with cleaning your bed, you don't really need to clean it if you don't touch it with your fingers. If you touch it with your fingers, then the oils, obviously when it gets hot, they just spread so thin and all over the bed. But if you don't touch the bed, which is quite difficult when you're bending things to get it off. Nope, I've slept since then. Yeah, acetone does. See, I mean, when it starts to not stick perfectly, as soon as I get a failed print because of bed adhesion, I will absolutely clean it, no doubt. But all the time where I'm not in a business money scenario where it doesn't matter if I fail a print, then I'm just going to not clean it probably. Or I'll just clean it when I feel like it. If I've got the alcohol in the room, then I'll clean it. If it's not available, then I won't clean it. Simple as that. I haven't wiped it with anything. I know I'm a very naughty boy. But as I said, if it doesn't stop sticking, there's no point in me cleaning it. They do say wipe it after every print, but if I did that, I wouldn't print anything ever because I'd just be so bored of wiping it. But yeah, in my head, the only reason to wipe it is to get the oils from your fingers away. Which, if you don't touch it, don't have to. Oh, you got some of the filler farm surface. You've gone to the dark side. I do want some of that, their print surface, but it's so damn expensive. Maybe I'll do it for where Steve Mark II. The surface I have on Steve at the moment is absolutely ridiculous for having things stick. The problem is it's really difficult to get them unstuck at the end. Like, I'm not kidding, even, I mean, well, in fairness, I've not actually printed ABS on it, but it's absolutely ridiculous. It sticks. I mean, even very little surface, you can have it barely touching the bed and it still sticks amazingly well. Yeah, the bell, worth every penny. Yeah, I ought to get one. The thing is with filler foam, I had their bed all being not funky and they spent like 3 months getting me a new one, and yeah, I should get it, really. I should quit moaning about it and just get one, but I haven't yet. I'm doing lots with the Mark III at the moment, and as soon as I end up buying something new, I'll take my attention off of this, and I want to put plenty of time into the Mark III at the moment to make sure we get plenty of good content about that. I don't know why I'm just letting it print and not making it fail, because that was sort of the point. Let's do another power failure. Let's do another power failure. Does it work again? Bosh. So what someone else asked me, I don't know if that person is still here, but they left a comment on my video, Power Panic video, about whether Oh, it has actually raised a little bit. It has raised. Good news. It's probably only 0.5 mil, but it has raised. Yeah, someone asked if you let it cool down and you need to press the button, if you have another power failure while that's happening, which is not uncommon, if you have one power failure, then you might also have a second, does it cancel that power failure that you just had? In other words, can you continue after 2 blackouts without resuming in between? Does that make sense? Brownouts, whatever you want to call them. I don't know how cool it needs to be before it will not resume properly. I never got to the bottom of exactly what temperatures need to be, and obviously can't see the temperatures without turning it on. So just cool it down a bit. It'd be interesting to see at this point, could you move the axes? I mean, you could move the axes, move the bed, take the print off, whatever. You could take the whole bed off as long as you don't unstick the print and then put it all back. I know it's probably going to move, isn't it? Because you'll never get the bed on in the same place. You get that back in. Is that going to boot up and carry on printing? Recovering. I don't know if you can see, there's a slight blob there. Heating. So it doesn't seem to want to ask the message. That was 40 degrees and only 5 degrees off the bed. Hello Sven, nice to see you again. I had my worst print failures printing the New Year's popper gun. Little rods were a pain in the arse to get to stick. Yeah, maybe I do need to do some sort of stress test on bed surface adhesion, if you can do that. I mean, presumably you can do anything, but presumably try and print the tallest, skinniest thing you can and see at what point it will not stick anymore. Yeah, that power failure has recovered pretty well. I'm glad to see that. Unfortunately, it's immediately after I released the video, and so that video is no longer entirely applicable. But maybe I'll just have to leave a comment on the video and pin it so that everyone can see that, yes, this has been now fixed for me in version 1 b143. Did it overshoot? What did it overshoot to? Sorry, I wasn't watching. It dropped to 201. I haven't. I wonder if you can check the PID calibration. Do you need a computer to be able to rewrite those PID calibration values, or will it do it straight from the firmware? Because I can't be bothered doing it through the computer. It's 211 now. It might be because I have a bit of a cold breeze coming through, which I don't normally have. Oh. Oh dear, what's it doing? We've had a filament jam, I think. No. Okay, wants to unload the filament. So this is presumably just a faulty reading of filament sensor. It's nice to get my first one. I feel part of the club now. Repeat unloading filament. Oh, maybe. Oh, if it's a 2-color print, that's going to be a pain. It probably is as well, isn't it? Oh, what a mess. I don't have the facilities to change color very easily. No, sorry, don't have any other easily accessible PLA, so I'm just going to have to Oh. So is that supposed to be a multicolour print? Are the top layers a different colour? We'll pretend it's orange. So is it meant to be a two-colour print then? Is that because it draws Prusa's face, doesn't it, or something? So maybe that's the top layer now, and then the second colour it just does the details on the top. Just to let you know, I'm quite uncomfortable sitting on these Bosch power toolboxes. Apparently they weren't designed to be sat on, especially for hours at a time. Yeah, I don't actually have many filaments as it happens. I mean, you can look up there. I have a few available, but I mean, I think this one's PETG, this one, the next one's samples, that's ABS, that one's samples, that's samples, that one's, I think, another PETG, and then it's Tom 3D's PLA, which I could have used. That one's samples, that one's ASA, that one's the Poly Smooth, which is on Steve right now, you can see behind there. And then I've got a couple more at the end. One's empty and the other one is some recycled PLA from Filamentive. So I do have a couple others that I could have used, but I just, to be quite honest, couldn't be bothered to get up and get them. Yeah, it's supposed to be two colour. Yeah, so it would make sense. Don't know if you can see many of the details printing out now, but it does appear to be a two colour print. I'm going to have to not sit on this box anymore because I'm starting to do myself a mischief. I'm going to have to just sit really low instead. As far as I can see, the example, it was supposed to be two colour. I have read that after upgrading to firmware b143, the ZX's motors are really noisy because of the high current. Is this fixed with b143, and did you realise that yourself? Excuse me. So for me, I think the test file probably does say colour print, but I thought I was printing something else and accidentally printed that, so I don't know if that's, I might have to check in the video what I actually clicked on, but I'm pretty sure I clicked the dog rather than the this thing. So yeah, I wanted a black or something, and that would have made the print look a bit more tidy. What was I going to talk about? Oh, the Z-axis current. So I think I started on 122 or 121 and then went to 138 a couple of days ago when that Power Panic video went live, and the difference between those I didn't actually really notice. So to say they were really noisy is definitely an exaggeration. Well, based on my experience, I'm not saying that others weren't, but I didn't really notice a noise difference, and then I've not noticed a noise difference different to this either, so it might be slightly different, but I can't really tell any significant noise difference. Let's get the sound meter on again. In my initial build we were around 55 decibels. Well, that doesn't help, does it? So I've noticed this as well. Obviously when it loses power, it loses the data. Well, it obviously doesn't write all the data because it doesn't know how long it had been printing it for. Oh no, it's not going to be an easy removal. I'll have to take the bed off. Hard times, eh? Ooh. So yeah, if I'm doing this sort of removal of prints, then I would clean it. Ow! So that would be a good time. You can probably see a couple of... No, you can't. Angle's too steep. Oh yeah, yeah. Thank you for remembering to check that. Yeah, I wonder if my LEDs are the wrong way around or something, so it doesn't power up. I don't know. So where I was pulling the filament off it at the beginning, when I was holding that reel still, it did have some slightly dodgy movements going on there. So there's a bit of a weird layer. And then another offset, I think, as a result of power layer, the power loss. And let's see if I can get a bit closer. My enormous hand. Come on, please, please. I really wish I had one of those Panasonic G7 cameras. I just want the manual focus. Oh, it's so painful, come on. No, okay, it's not going to focus. Oh, as soon as I give up, it decides to focus. I know, it's not really sure if it wants to or not. So this is obviously the main gap in here for the thing, but down there, can you see? It's really difficult to show because the focus control is just so bad. You should hang him on the door upside down so he's always watching. The best camera to get would probably be the GH5, but that's a ridiculous amount of money, which I don't have. So I think the best budget one is probably the G7, which does 4K, which is nice to have, and it has a video output, I believe, so you can use it. So it has an HDMI out on the camera, so you can do this sort of live streaming with it. So have we missed any features there? Have I successfully tested... No pen. Well, you're at a computer, surely. You can just bring up Notepad and type. I don't even have a keyboard that's local, so... Well, I do, but it's on the other side of the printer. There we go. Yes, we're back. Okay. So, have I successfully tested everything? We've done power failure, which now works, which I'm pleased about. See how low I am. So, power panic. Now we've got to work. Filament detection seems a little bit dodgy. Not entirely sure if that's working as it's intended to. Obviously, we had the change colour on here, which is fine. That wasn't a bug, that was intended. But the whole detecting of the filament and the pushing it out the right amount seems a little bit off. So that could probably be improved. Yeah, I think that's a pretty successful firmware release then. I think everything worked, didn't it? The wizard, we started with the wizard. The wizard has a lot of problems to begin with. That seems to work fine. It detects the two print fans properly now. So if you're an idiot like me and you're concentrating on a live stream rather than building your very expensive printer, then you can not plug your fans in the wrong way around, or if you do, it will detect them because it does the RPM sensing. We think it's RPM sensing. Excuse me. So yeah, XYZ calibration was all fine. Bed temperatures and all that was fine. Power panic was fine. I'm going around in circles. This is now good. The end stop skippy thing, that works pretty much perfectly, I think. I mean, filament jamming, bit more difficult to test, I think. I mean, the only way we've tried to do it is holding the reel, and that's caused more problems than it solved. So I think that could only be down to me. So yeah, we might have to do, unless anyone can think of a better way, we might have to do a stop the hot end fan to do the heat creep, and then it'll force block the nozzle. Well, no, it'll block the section before the nozzle. And that way we can test that feature as well. Well, it's another element of the filament sensor, really. Oh. Didn't crash into the bed, 10 out of 10. Yeah. If it doesn't damage your bed, then it's worth it. Unless anyone has any other suggestions for things they'd like to see done testing-wise, then I think we're going to call it a day there. Oh, I can, well, I did find a bottle of Coca-Cola that I could try this on, but it was warm and I didn't really want to open a warm bottle of Coke because I don't have any ice to put in it. So I don't really want to drink warm Coca-Cola. So I'm not going to be testing this right now. Sorry. If you want one, you're going to have to print one yourself. But as a free file, you can get this off the Prusa website, their 3D printed files area. It's probably on Thingiverse as well, isn't it, I'd imagine, because Prusa has an account on there. Probably do it in 2 colours though, probably looks a bit better in 2 colours, because mine you can't really see that it's a face until you get really close. You're printing one now. Black and orange, yeah. Black and orange is definitely the right colour for a Joseph Prusa item. Right. Then we'll call it a day then. It was a success. Firmware confirmed working, mostly. Thank you to everyone for watching and sticking around. Thank you for contributing as much as you did. It's always helpful to have some feedback on what I'm doing and what the print is doing and having everyone chat along. Some good interaction there. If you want to go watch my video about how Power Panic works, you might want to go do that now. That's a pretty good video and it's been fairly well received, so worth watching, I think. Unexplained 20-second video of opening a soda. Sorry. Oh dear. Yeah, I think that's going to be me calling it a day. So yes, thank you very much for watching. Hit a like now. If you haven't left a like already, if you're here at this point, I think you probably enjoyed it. So go ahead and leave a like if you want to. I'm not going to force you. Subscribe if you want to as well, for obvious reasons. It's fairly useful to do that. Anyway, thank you very much, and I shall see you in the next one. Goodbye, everyone.